Are we going?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the sound on? Is anybody there? Let's see if we, oh, you can hear. Okay, great. So we have some sound. Welcome to EPP Live. This is our second live stream, and I'm here to answer questions. I have some tips and tricks I was going to show you, and I'm just looking at a couple things on my computer. We're always trying to add something new. This is very new and it's very technical, so it's always a little tricky. Jenna says she can't hear me. Let's see what we can do with that. Well, let's see. Sorry, hang in there. That was a little tricky. Can't hear?
I can hear.
You can hear? Janice, tell me if you can hear me now. Will, who's my son Will, is hooked up to another computer and he can hear. There's a little bit of a delay. So I think we may have worked it out. We'll see. We'll just wait a little bit and see. Ah, there we go. Okay, we are all good. All right. Oh, good. Okay. So I have always a lot of information to share. First off, of course, you all know that market is happening right now as we speak. And really the big news at market is I'm not, oh, someone's writing and I'm not seeing anything. Huh. Let's see if we can fix that. I'm not totally sure why that might be. The big news, but we'll work on it, Val. The big news is there's a lot of EPP at market this spring, and that's exciting because I'm all about English paper piecing, so I love seeing that. So I have a couple people that have written in, so I'm just gonna jump right in. If you have any questions, type them in the chat bar, and I'll try and get to them today. So Cheryl wrote in, and she is from Seattle, and she had a question about, she's a beginner, and she's going to start the La Paz. She hasn't bought her papers, and she wants to know if we would recommend her, or should she do the oversized, or should she stick with the original papers? And I have some samples of that. So here is the original size, and here is the oversized. So I would say that if you're beginning and you're a little hesitant, I would go with the larger size. And there's a couple benefits. Oh, let's see. I can hear and see you now. Great. Okay. So the larger shapes are great because this is Tabby Road, and I don't own a cat. I have had a cat in my life, and I love them, but I really love this fabric. So what I think is great about the oversized is, look, you can get a kitty in there, and that's important. So the large not only is easier to work with, you can use some of the larger motifs with this, and I think that's really fun. It opens up a few more possibilities. Look, you can get some tuna cans, cat food cans in a big one. Now the other advantage is those star points. That's the pentagon, but here's the, let me keep it there, right? Here's the difference. These little star points are a nuisance, and there's so many. Um, but here's the star points for the oversized. So I really do think that the oversized would be a good way to start. Your quilt is going to be a little bit bigger, and that's a great thing too. Just depends on the end result, you know, where you want to put it. Um, so I'm going to say go with the large, but also when you're doing the large oversize, you get the same effect. It's just bigger. That's all. So you're still going to get that nice milleflore look. So there's no disadvantage in my mind. So, all right, that is that question for Cheryl. And let me set this down here. Let's see. I had a couple little things I wanted to mention about the Soline glue pen. It's getting warmer here in San Francisco and the Bay Area, and I think all over the US. And I have noticed in the heat that the glue pens get kind of a little funky. They get a little sticky, and it's harder to do a finer line. So if you will just put it in the refrigerator, maybe for an hour to 30 minutes before you use it, it doesn't freeze, but it does stiffen it up a little bit, and I think it's easier to work with. So that's a little tip today. Just if it's getting too warm and the glue is doing funny things, try putting it in the refrigerator for a little bit, and that'll sort of put it back together again. Now I have another tip. I like using all the glue in this little bottom. There's a lot left in here. So at the end, I used to take a pen and sort of dig it out, and then I would stick it on my finger, and then I would try to rub it on the paper. It was kind of a mess, but I didn't care because these little things add up and you use so much glue. I'm gonna make the mess and I'm gonna use every little bit. But a better tip is, because it's hard to spread evenly and use a smaller amount when you're digging out and using just your finger. So someone had written in and talked about using a Q-tip. Brilliant. So I have just been digging in and sort of swirling it around with the Q-tip. And I'll show you. So here's the end. But look, there's a lot. Now it's not all the way down, but maybe it's like 3/4. So what I found is I'm using the tip, and I just kind of twirl it around in there, and it makes a nice little, little dot that you can spread. Now, I leave the glue on this tip and let it dry out. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Let me explain. Instead of using a fresh new cotton tip every time, because it kind of absorbs a little bit, and to me that's wasteful. So this is a tip that I have used 3 or 4 times, and I just let it sit. I don't clean it. I don't try to wrap it up or do anything, because I like it kind of sealed and the glue has hardened. And so now I have a better applicator. Whereas this takes a while to absorb, and then it gets kind of lumpy. And so I just reused that same tip. And you can see that that's pretty good. So I just let it dry out. I'm always using as much as I can off of that. And then I just kind of leave it around and then use it again. So this is much better than using a fingertip, because you can get a little finer line to that. All right, so I was just gonna show you how I glue up things real fast. We're gonna try to do a little split screen. So I'm gonna wait for my technical son to look at the iPhone. Anyways, another little tip while I'm waiting is when you get your acrylics, I think this is from Quilt Lady 63, Linda Frick. She peels off the protective papers, but leaves the border on. And I think that let me just move to a spot where you can see it. So it frames the image. So I think it's a little easier to see what you're fussy cutting. So I thought that was a great tip. Take everything off except for that border. Okay, that was one little tip. Well, I'll just move into this because I'm trying to do things that aren't close up yet. So I have really big news for the DIY addict. We are offering a new quilt pattern very soon, and the designer is Juicy Juice, and it's Giuseppe Robato. Here is his little pin. I'm wearing that today. He's at market. So I'm really excited about that. We're working on it. It'll be released next month. It's pretty different. It can be modern, but there's some traditional elements to it. It uses a larger motif or a bigger shape, so you can use some bigger motifs like the oversized La Paz I was just talking about. So you could use your Tabby Road in some bigger images, and that's really fun. And I'm going to show you a sneak peek later. Okay, not right now though. Okay, and then I just want to write down something right now. I'm going to keep that over here. Okay, so I think we have this. Ooh, is that kind of working? Bear with me. Oh, it is. Awesome. Okay. So I've saved this here, and, well, I'll just show you the rest of how this is working. I'm not even sure about the delay with all of this, but so here's my glue that I had, and I can do a pretty fine line with that. Again, it is a little messier than using, oh, I have two pieces, a little messier, but you get a fair amount. I don't care about the mess. And I'm again, well, I'll show you how I really glue. I stay off the edge because I want to sew on that edge. Let me put in a new pen. Everybody knows how to do that. But the Q-tip is really pretty functional, and I would definitely continue with that. But I'm not going to do that now because I want to just show you. So here is, I just do a fine line. I stay off that edge as much as possible, but I do want to catch the fabric, and I do go from the fabric all the way because it's going to fold over on, if that makes sense. So now I can actually stitch along this edge. Now I'm always doing the flat back stitch, so it's probably more critical. But even if you're doing the whip stitch, you definitely want to stay off that edge. All right, so there's a little bit of that. So that's my tips for the gluing. And just remember, when you're working with repetitive shapes in any quilt pattern, try to glue them all the same way. And I think I talked about that last time, so I won't do that again. Well, I can't see the comments. I don't know what people are asking or saying. They're saying I'm a crazy person. I don't know. I don't know what they're saying. But isn't this great, this little close-up thing? So I did want to talk about color today because I know that that is always a big issue. Okay, Falcon. Hi, Liz. Love you too. Oh, I love that. Okay, let's see. I'm new to EPP. Watching some regular whip stitch and could see my stitches, so I didn't Okay, now I'm using your flat back stitch and I can't stop. Have EPP. She's doing La Paz. So that's Liz Gray, and she is doing Lucy Boston and La Paz. And that's great. She's using the flat back stitch. And I don't know if I want to go into that today, but just remember, you should know all the stitches. I use the whip stitch. I use the ladder stitch. So I think as you're working through the quilt, sometimes you may find you need any one of those. So I suggest becoming proficient at all of the stitches, all right? I happen to love the flat back stitch. I use a little heavier thread. I get tangled up in the bottom line finer threads. I probably don't have like this also. I love this. This is Invisifil, and it's very thin. But I just get tangled up. I just don't think I don't have enough finesse. I'm kind of a rough and tumble gal. So I like a little thicker thread. Then if I do the whip stitch, it shows on the front too much. So I think I'm repeating myself, but that's how I ended up with the flat back stitch. And I did not invent that. I just named it that because there really wasn't a name. Anyways, let's see. So Karen, I use a very fine, a very fine, well, I can't totally read the whole sentence. I don't know if that's stitch or thread. Well, is it C, Tillery? I'm going to have to get back to you. I need my technician. I can't see the whole thing. There's probably an easy way for me to do that. I just don't know. I could not do this if it wasn't for my son, Will. So, thank you, Will. Anyways, all right. Now it's time for a little unicorn juice. I always drink unicorn juice out of a straw. It's the best. I have all these lights on, and so it's really super hot. Now, unicorn juice is actually just Crystal Light, but we call it unicorn juice because it's magical. Anyways, let's see. She says, fine paintbrush. Oh, okay, thank you. A fine paintbrush. See, now that for the glue part, that actually would work well as, I think so too. I guess it depends on how fat the little paintbrush is, and I think if it kind of got a little stiff and a little hard, that would totally work. I have all my paintbrushes in a basement, so I don't have them readily, but I have Q-tips, so that works great too. I know someone has used a fingernail cuticle pusher backer thing, and so that works too. All I'm saying is use the full stick all the way to the bottom. I buy glue sticks in bulk. All right, so I guess I can talk about, is there any other questions? Otherwise, I'm either going to do some color or I'm going to talk about some knots. So I will talk about color because it's fun, but it's scary. So I collect things that I like color palettes with. That doesn't make sense. I am always looking for color palettes, and I'm trying to save as many of those things that I can go back to when I'm ready to do a quilt, and I'm trying to figure out patterns and palettes. So I collect cards. This is one of my favorite cards. I don't know if it's going to show well, but I love this combination, and I thought it would make a great baby quilt with the blue, but maybe that's too obvious. But I've had this for years. And then, of course, you saw my Save the Date, which is what I use to pick my La Paz. And, you know, it's funny because when I see it on the wall, it's a little more pink than I started off or that I thought it was going to be. But, you know, when you're working on each rosette and, you know, you have your head down and you're sewing, it kind of takes on a life of its own. I still love it, but it's not exactly like the card. You know, as far as this, there's a lot of peach here. and there's very little pink on the side, and it turned out to be more pink. So here's another card that I found that I love these colors, and I'll someday do something with. Oh, also, the save the date is from 2005, so this is 12 years old. So I have a big pile of stuff. I know I tend to use the same color palette, and I am trying to push myself a little differently to challenge myself, but I love all color. I just happen to focus on this one little group of colors. Here's a fabric, a little sample that I had sent to me from Spoonflower, and I love this palette. I'm going to use this palette someday. But what I did was I got this plate. Actually, it's my daughter's plate, and I stole it from her. And I'm going to put together a color palette for a quilt using this plate. So how I would do that, so I'm seeing if you can see it on the screen. All right. So what I see in this is, and I hope the color is coming out okay. There's a couple greens. There's sort of a yellowy green, and then there's more of a forest green. I see an orange, sort of a blood red, maybe a brighter red. And then there's a dark purple, and I see this sort of aqua color, a little darker aqua. So I would start, let's see if I can get it to do that. I would start by picking, not solids. I don't work with solids, they scare me. So all of my solids kind of have a little pattern to them. So, but I consider these my solids. So I would pick out some solids that I think the colors are in the sample. All right, and there's the two greens. Now I did this ahead of time, but this is exactly how I actually would do it. Here is that blood red, and I don't work a lot with reds. They scare me too. And yellow. I love them. I just they're so bright. I don't wear those colors. I generally don't work with them. Now this is a little brighter orange than is in here, but that's okay. I think I'm pretty close. Can you see all that? Yeah. Okay. So I'll start out with my solids, and then and I think actually you could do a fine quilt with this. I would add some pattern now. So here's my base. Now I found this. I don't know if I love this, and I'm gonna come back to that. Again, now I'm trying to find a variation in pattern, but still keeping in the colors. So I found this nice polka dot, and then I pulled. So how I did this, I found the solids, which are mostly Allison Glass, and then I just grabbed my pile of Anna Maria Horner, because there's so much pattern to that. So I did that on purpose. Now here's this green that I feel is in it. This is a little different, but I like that there was this other thing happening. So I'm picking these more for pattern, but keeping them in the same color range. I also saw this, which I love. So you kind of see where I'm headed. Now, I don't know if I'd use all these, right? And I'll try to get a bigger picture, but here is, here, that's better. Okay. And this kind of has the blue a little lighter. It has all the colors. It's just a little lighter in value, which I think, and I'm going to show this up there because I'm losing image here. And then I thought maybe the orange. See, there's the orange. I mean, I could go on for days. And then I thought this, because I thought it needed some lighter colors. I don't know if I would use, I think you could use the yellow, but again, I think most of these colors are in here, and I'll show you the big reveal in a second. Here's sort of that red, and I felt it added a little lighter color. The problem with Anna Maria Horner is everything's sort of a medium tone. I don't know if I throw in another dot or not, but you kind of see where I'm headed. I'm really just started off with my base, and now I'm adding all these other colors. I could do purple. There's a little brighter lime green, but that's not really patterned, so I'm gonna get those out of here. And then I found that. I don't know. I think there's probably too much blue in that, so I would take that out. It does have everything, but I just feel like it in this particular plate pattern, there's not a lot of blue, and so I'm trying to keep it more towards the plate. So I feel like this could work, but I am using the blue as sort of a highlight. All right. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this. Let's see if I can use this great little plate here. You know, I try to get everything all set up around me. I have papers and fabrics and my unicorn juice and a pin cushion and an iPad and needles and thread. I have to be able to, you know, reach them. So, all right, so I'm going to tip this up. See if I can get this on here. I can hold it and show you the plate. All right. So here is, oh, does that work? I don't know if you can see that. Ah, does that kind of look like the plate? I can't see, I don't have an image. So this is how I would put together a quilt palette. So it's pretty crazy and there's a lot of pattern, but I like that. I hope you can see that. I'm gonna kind of just, maybe that's in the way. All right, so that was my little 2 cents on color. And now I was gonna talk about some knots. I can put this out of here. Okay. So let's see. This is a good example. So I thought we'd do something from start to finish. And so I will, because I want to talk about these loose ends here. I don't know if you can see that. I think these are such a nuisance. You'll be sewing and then you'll get this end, or maybe it's at the beginning, these little ends. You have to get rid of those, because I feel I like to get sewing and I like to get in the groove and get my mojo going, and I don't like fighting all these loose threads, because then they get tucked in and they get sewn in and then I gotta stop, and I like to lock in and then I just, you know, get my groove on, and you know, I could stitch for hours, but I don't like to stop and start. So I just want to talk about that, and I'm going to take a needle and I'm going to start with that. I have to use the needle threader, which I've talked about, because I can't thread the needle because I am blind. And I have these all over the house, in my car, in my purse. I talked about the trick with those: push down and let it release. If you are using one of those, make sure that the end where it poked through is not the end where you tie it. I don't know if that makes sense. I'll talk about that later. So here is a quilter's knot. So I have it threaded. I have the end here. Just hold it here. And spin it around a lot, maybe 6 times, 7 times. Hold it so either end is not going to slide through, and then just pull. And then it makes that little knot. I'm going to try to put it over. This is a little brown contrasting. Here we go. Okay, so there's that. Now, honestly, and this may disgust people, I don't know, but I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't use that knot. Okay. I use the knot where you stick it in your mouth and you roll it on your finger. I said it. God, don't hate me. I don't know. It just, I like a little bigger knot, and it kind of, this is pretty fine. I feel like that's going to pop through, but it actually doesn't matter, because you should be doing a knicker knot or a figure 8 knot. Anyways, so that isn't a huge deal, but I don't know. I just, this is how I do it. Won't do it. I put it in my mouth, I get the end wet, and then I just spin it, and then I do that. See, I like that little bigger knot. It's so embarrassing. My face is probably beet red. Anyways, and then I kind of just, because I've rolled it and twisted it, I kind of just gently stroke it to maybe get the twist out, if it twisted. All right, so, okay, this guy really doesn't have a tail, but this one does. Let's use him. All right, so there's true confessions on knots. All right, so here's my knot, and you can see there is that little piece that is at the end, and I usually have that. I don't know why that other one did that. Okay, so here's how I start. I go underneath here, okay, because I don't want to deal with that tail. I don't go too far out because I don't want it to pull, but I get sort of, oh, maybe not, okay. So I get kind of close to the end, and then I come to the point. Oh my gosh, I need my glasses. Okay, that's one thing I forgot. Okay, I'm back. William, I can't see all the comments. He's gonna shoot me. I can't see the edge of the comments. I don't want to touch it because if I break it. Ha! There we are.
You have 10 minutes.
I only have 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
What? Okay, I'm going to talk faster. Okay, let's see. How you use it? Okay, Karen, I use a very fine paintbrush. Okay, she says fine paint. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Sharon, do you use this for the whole quilt or just the rosette? Sharon, do you mean the, I'm sorry to stop and start, but I feel like I should at least address that. Do you use this for the whole quilt or just rosettes? I'm not sure. Are we talking about the knot or are we, oh, the coloring, of course. Yes, I do. So as far as the color palette, I do. I will use that color palette. I'm pretty strict, unless I'm doing something just really scrappy or you're just using everything. Then I think anything goes, and those are fun. I love that. I want to be more scrappy, but I think I'm too controlling of a person to do that. So, and I even find like doing random color things are hard for me. I'm pretty methodical, and I kind of plan everything. When I did La Paz, I did a lot of additioning, and I was constantly, playing with things. So I really do keep a pretty strict color palette because I've already determined that I like it. So I don't want to deviate, because when you start adding other colors, it changes things, and I don't like changes. So I start off liking something, and I want to keep to that. So I don't deviate too much. Now, with color palettes, some people don't know where to start, or maybe they just don't have an inspiration. And so I suggest using a designer's complete line. they've already done the hard work for you. If you work with Tulip Pink, she has a certain color palette that she always uses. So all her fabrics pretty much go together for the most part. So, but you know, from season to season they will go. But certainly the line, if a designer, you know, they have 18 fabrics or so in a line, all those already go together. So if you see a designer that you like, go with their whole line. If you're uncertain as to what colors go with each other, just make it easy and pick the whole line. All right. Let's see. Use the quilter's knot, but wrap the thread around the needle at least. Oh, you do 10 or, Janice. Okay, Janice. Well, I have news about Janice. Janice Simmons, you also, you may know her as French 75-2, TOO2. She is going to help me out and be the admin for the Facebook group. So if you aren't on the Facebook group, you should get there. And we try to answer every question, and it's for English paper piecing, mostly with the patterns that we sell, but it doesn't matter. You can ask us anything. I'm going to show you. You already know her, I bet. If you aren't following her, you should be. All right, I'm going to find it. Just give me a second. Okay, and so Janice has just said, and she teaches EPP, and she's been doing it for years, and she really is a master. I wouldn't consider myself a master. I just happen to be in front of the screen. So, yeah, anyways, that. So let me find her. There it is. Okay. So here is Janice, French 75-2, TOO. And here's her quilt that I had. I hope you can see that. I don't know. Can you see that better? There it is. I love this quilt. Look at the red binding. And look at, these are really just 3 colors. The red, the aqua, and the white with the little pluses. How clever is that? Anyway, so Janice is available, and she is running our Facebook group. So thank you for that. Okay, and she's telling me when she does the knot, the quilter's knot, that she wraps it around the needle about 10 or 12 times. So that makes a fatter knot, and it doesn't slip through the fabric after the needle. There you go. She knows. Anyways, I still lick mine and roll it. But anyways, maybe I'll try and get better. Okay. Thanks for this. This is a great idea for me. I always struggle with color. Yeah, I think we all struggle with color. And, you know, you don't really know. You think it goes, but does it? And it depends, you know, after that, how much of each fabric you're using where. So it's complicated. You know, if it was really easy, we'd just look it up in a book and that'd be the end of it. But, you know, it isn't that easy. So I'm going to use my handy dandy, well, I got to talk about that. God, I'm all over the place today. I have too much to share. And Will tells me I only have, you know, X amount of minutes. So I better talk faster. So I use these little rubber thimbles, but every once in a while they burn out and break and dissolve because I do a lot of EPP. So they're not perfect, but they are very light. And then they're called finger cones. They're more of a office supply thing. That's too long, so I cut them off, and I can still bend my finger. I don't like anything on my hands. All right, so let's talk about that. So I have I'm coming up, and so I'm just before the corner. So now I'm going to take the first stitch in the corner. Again, I'm doing the flat back stitch. That's just the way I roll. And I take a stitch, and I'm going to come back and do another one kind of on top of that. And then I'm going to do, this is Sue Daly's Knicker knot. So you take this thread, see if I can hold still here, wrap it around the front, and then the back, and then take these two from the needle, pull and come around the front. And I think it goes around the back. Okay, now to be really, pull it slowly or it makes that knot. And that is the knicker knot. So now it's secure. So even if that end knot were to come out, you're safe because you've got that here. So there's a couple others. There's a, so I'm gonna take a couple stitches. So now what I've done, God, don't you hate that when it catches? So I've buried this thread. I started off the corner with another knot. So if I have to take any of this out, I can go to here. Now I would do another knot here at the end, but let me take another couple stitches and then we'll talk about, all right. So I'm gonna go back through that same stitch. And you can do, oh, see, you have to be careful. Oh, and it's kind of tangled, so I go slow. So I haven't so this is called a half hitch. You can also do this. It's not as secure, but I pull it till there's a little loop, and then I just come up through that. So that's really a little half hitch. And then I would do it again. Again, I would be at the corner. I wouldn't be halfway down the row. I'm gonna do that again. Now, you can grab the loop here, but what happens is it's going to make a knot before. See how it did that? I am pulling really tight, and it made the knot before I was ready. So the trick with those guys, let me make sure I'm on the camera. Okay. So the trick with that little half hitch is, do this, pull it until there's a little loop left, okay? And then you can go through it. And then you won't have that little pre-knot, okay? But with the half hitch, you have to do it twice, okay? And here I am, see I'm finding, make sure that loop is tiny. Don't go through the loop too early, okay? That's a tailor's knot, really. All right, and then there's a figure 8. This is my sort of knicker knot. All right, so it doesn't really matter. Like I would have rather had the thread over the needle the other way, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm taking the front thread, wrapping it here, wrapping it there. I get those out of the way, come forward and back. So I kind of do this crazy 8 thing, which this is actually a crazy 8 knot. And then I do the same thing there. So make sure you are knotting, and then at the end, I do the same thing. So blah, 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 and I'm gonna catch, you know, obviously I'm not gonna sew all the way down. So now I'm at the end of my row. I'm gonna change threads. I'm gonna close this out. I'll do the half hitch. Woo, I'm way down there, but I'm still gonna catch it. Okay. And I'm gonna go again. And this happens. It's not a problem. It came out. I would just, I'm at the end. We'll just do that. Okay, but now you gotta thread it because you really want to get rid of this. Don't leave these hanging. I'm telling you, they come back to bite you. Okay. And you can thread it. So I've already done, you know, a double half hitch. And now just take a couple stitches and get out of the way and bury that. Not too close to the edge. That's probably a little close, but there. So now I'm not fighting this little tail. Let's see. Thanks for the shout out. Yes, come find me. That's Janice. Yeah. So I just think that's one of those little tips of knotting. How much time what time is it? I don't know if I want to get into. Okay. Can I show you one more knot, and then I'll be done with knots. Okay. I'm going to use this. So here also I do the half hitch a little differently. So there's a lot of ways you can tie these off here. I'm not even done gluing this, but I'll just use it. Here we go. Yeah, I gotta have this. See, but look, I do not, I mean, I have wrinkly hands and veiny hands, sorry. But I don't have any marks on my tips because I use these nifty little thimbles. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna come in, take that. All right. I'm not even, this is really how I stitch. I don't use clover clips or tape anymore on my flat back. I just hold it. I've been doing it for so long that I don't even need the support. I just use my fingers. Okay, so here is how I do my half hitch. Okay, so I've taken a couple stitches and now I'm coming through. I have my big loop. I get a lot of thread, so I'm pulling tight on the part of the thread that's in the paper. So make sure I'm in there. Okay. And then I just pull, it's like crocheting actually. So I'm pulling that. So just think of crocheting a loop. Here's my second loop. That's really secure. And then I come through the third time. So I call that like a triple half hitch, but it's my crochet knot. Anyways, that's nice and secure. So that's knots, all right? What else was I gonna I don't have that much time, but I would, if you guys want a sneak peek at the new quilt that Juicy Juice is doing, I could probably do it. Wow. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, don't look at that messy house. There it is. Okay, look away. That was it. So I'm doing sort of a color organized, kind of a rainbow thing. But it's really fun because it has some bigger images. And let me get those real fast. Don't go away. And then, let's see. So I'll do a little thing about this, and then that's probably it for today. So here is one of the octagons that is used in the pattern. Let's see if I can, oh, that wasn't very good. Okay. So it's pretty big. There's some really tiny shapes as well. So there's these little tiny shapes, and then there's really big shapes. But look at what's really nice, is I can get a full kitty in there, a full cat. So you can really use the larger motif fabrics with this, and it's going to come out great. So I'll share more about that later on another live stream. And I just wanted to say that's it for today, and I will be back. I don't know when, we'll figure it out. It's market, so a lot of people are away at market, and it was a little tricky, but I thought we could do a little something. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for watching.